Hello everybody and welcome back to Friday Night Magic here at GameSwap Mason, brought to you by Top Deck Productions. This is round 3 of 5 of our modern FNM. We've got Jonathan Tople on Grixis Shadow and Erik Baldus on Humans. We've got the top deck of last year, Shadow, versus the top deck of this year, Humans. Let's see how these two go at it. So last year we saw Grixis Shadow pull off a win at an early GP and shake up the modern format. And that year ended with Humans taking down an Open and later becoming the top deck of the format after it solidified its place at the Pro Tour. So and then Grixis and then Shadow kind of fell off a little bit because of Humans. So now we get to see how these decks pair up against each other.
I'm excited to see how this goes.
Yeah. Erik's on the play. So we're looking for a Noble Hierarch, Aether Vial, or Champion of the Parish to start it off.
Well, we've got the Hierarch and the Meddling Mage in his hand, so it's looking good. Ooh. Is that a Cavern?
Yeah, we've got a Cavern of Souls naming Human and Aether Vial.
Ooh, that's nice. That's a good start.
It's not bad. And I like that with Erik's hand than leading the Noble Hierarch. Because I think he only has one land. So he can play the Noble Hierarch next turn off of the Vial and possibly draw a land. And then be able to play any of these other ones. So Jonathan's going to start out with a Shock down to 18, and then a Thought's and be down to 16. And if I'm Tople, that's a tough one. It's pretty tough. He can take the Noble to try to limit Erik's mana, but he's going to take the Freebooter because he doesn't want Erik taking his removal spell. Or to see his hand, that's either, true. To know what other cards to name.
Because now he does know that he has the Meddling Mage, so if he sees Jonathan's hand, he's going to know what to name. Exactly.
So this limits, Erik did not draw a land, so this limits him to just flashing in the Noble Hierarch at the end of John's turn. And what's John's follow-up? Okay, John has another land. I think he's going to lead with Serum Visions. He should lead off with Serum Visions. And then play the fetch land.
Just thinking real hard about it.
Yeah, the only thing I can think of is if he wants to use that fetch land to go and get a land instead of drawing that land. Rather than asking a judge to give him an errata on the Meddling Mage, he's just asking Erik to show him. And since it's already known information, it's easier. Yeah, and Erik correctly points out that once Meddling Mage resolves, he gets to name something, and then it's too late to play that card. So you need to cast the card with the Meddling Mage on the stack. There is not a trigger. So Jonathan is going to go and get a Blood Crypt. Untapped and go down to 13. Still can't play the Shadow.
But we're getting there. I'll draw the Spicy Fetch land to get down.
And put an Engineered Explosives on 2. That's big game. That's what he was protecting with the by taking the Kitescope Freebooter. Did not want Erik to take the Engineered Explosives. Engineered on 2 is big game. A lot of the creatures in Humans are 2 mana. They have a couple of 1-drops and 3-drops, but
so Erik did draw that land.
Yeah, now he gets to use the. He went from 1 mana to 3 mana in the course of a turn, because he was able to play the Noble Hierarch off the Vial and then draw a land like a champ. I would take the. I think it's very clear to take the Kitescope Freebooter here. He can play it this turn. He already has a lot of. Yeah, there we go. The only reason not to is because of the, well, the reason not to would be the Engineer Explosives Fund too. But if Erik applies enough pressure, John has to pop it.
Yeah. Which is kind of what you want to do so that you don't lose as much.
Yeah, he can force John into a position where it's beneficial to pop it, and then Erik will still have 2 drops to play. He can also kind of see if the coast is clear to play out more guys, and he has a Meddling Mage. He really wants to see John's hand and then name something with Meddling Mage.
Which, honestly, if he's going to name anything in there, it's probably going to be the Shadow. If he gets down below 13.
We have Phantasmal Image on the Bugler, so we get to spin the wheel again, and there we go. We see the 95% hit rate on Phantasmal Image. I've read articles that talk about the math of Bugler, like what are the chances of it hitting. It's literally 95%. So Bugler, let's get Militia Bugler up. Militia Bugler lets you look at the top 4 cards of your library, and then you get to pick a card with power 2 or less. So that hits everything in the deck except for lands, Aether Vial, and Mantis Rider, which sounds like a lot, and it is. That's like 19 lands. That's 27 cards. It doesn't hit 27 cards, but it hits the other 33, which is over half, and you get 4 looks. It's not like... So if you had to look at 1 card, it's like 55-45. But you get to look at 4 cards.
Mm-hmm. So that's a good 50-50 chance almost.
It's 95% to hit.
Yeah.
To hit one, to completely whiff on this card, all 4 would have to be lands, Aether Vials, or Mantis Riders. And the chances of that happening are 5%. The other 95% of the time, you will hit at least 1 thing that you can take. And in that example, on the copy, he saw 3 things. So this is going to put John to 9. Each of those swung for 2, and they have Vigilance, so they get to block. Not that John really has anything going on his side of the battlefield, but it does enable him to play Gurmag. It does enable him to play Shadow.
Okay.
Yeah, that's an interesting one. K-Command is would be a way for John to get back in this game. It would kind of be a blowout on Erik's part.
Yeah.
But Shadowless don't even necessarily have that main deck. If they do, they play it as a one-of.
But it's a good thing to name it because he does have a second Meddling Mage, so he's probably going to hit something.
It would be able to kill the Meddling Mage or the Phantasmal Mage and then blow up the Aether Vial. It would kind of be a blowout.
But since he has a second Meddling Mage, he can name K-Command and then hit the Death Shadow.
Good. We'll double check. I think it's still 2. We would like to double check something.
So when you copy a card, it becomes a copy of it in all ways, including converted mana cost. Yeah. Yeah, it is a copy of it is literally Militia Bugler. It has a converted mana cost of 3. I'm not a fan of that, but that's how it is. It works when you make a copy, even if the copy's a token. Yeah, Tople can't quite get... He would have to decide between... He can get the Shadow out this turn easily, but he can't get the Shadow and the Gurmag Angler. He can get up to 6 cards if he casts Serum Visions and Lightning Bolt, and then he could play Gurmag Angler, but he can't play Gurmag Angler and Shadow.
Yeah.
He's going to have to play Shadow or Gurmag Angler this turn, and then the other one next turn. It would be a lot better for him to play out 2 threats rather than 1. So that even if Erik bounces 1 with Reflector Mage, he still has 1. Gives him more blockers, disincentivizes Erik from attacking, and more or less ensures that he's going to untap with 1. So we're going to lead with... Shadow here. And then we can hold up Stubborn Denial, which is not doing anything in this matchup. Stubborn Denial doesn't do anything here.
Yeah.
It can't counter a creature, and the only non-creature in Erik's deck is Aether Vial, and he already has 1. So we're going to Serum Visions to try to set up next turn. The Inquisition of Kozilek isn't bad. John can go ahead and fire that off, or hold up Lightning Bolt. I put those on the bottom. Lands 4 and 5 don't do any good out of the Grixis Shadow deck, and that's part of what makes the Shadow deck so good, is like it can get to 3 and then just stay on 3 and draw gas. You can use Street Wraith and Mishra's Bauble,
Yep, we're gonna
Serum Visions, whatever cantrips you're playing to get rid of or work your way through your extra lands and keep it going. So here's Militia Bugler number 3. Bugler into Bugler, just start chaining them together. This is card selection and card advantage at its finest. A creature that can draw a creature. Reminds me a little bit of Isaac Asimov's classic, the iRobot. This is what happens when you let machines... That's why you don't let machines assemble themselves.
Exactly.
So, not a good idea. The Bugler is just going to call more Buglers. And then that Bugler is going to Bugler into another Bugler. It's hard to keep up with the humans deck. It's very resilient.
It really is. And even if, you know, you could blow them all up, but they're still going to repopulate easily. Exactly.
Like had Jonathan cast a sweeper that turn, Erik has 4 creatures in his hand, and he can play 2 of them on the same turn. It can get under and ahead of removal. Yeah, the Shadow deck is really good at playing a single threat and protecting that single threat, and then eliminating problematic creatures as it goes. The issue with humans is that it has all problematic creatures.
Exactly.
And it plays so many of them that Shadow can't keep up. The current Shadow lists only play 6 pieces of removal main deck.
Yeah.
They'll have some split of Bolt and Push, and then 2 Dismember, and that's it. Which is good if you only really need to get rid of 1 creature per game. 1 to 2. But humans, if left unchecked, is going to play like 6+ creatures a game, and they all are annoying.
Yeah.
They all do things that set you back and make it difficult for you to play the game.
Which is why I was kind of interested to see this matchup. It looks pretty crazy.
Yeah, John's taking 4 here. He goes to 4. Erik just attacked through a Shadow. I don't think even.
I mean, if he could theoretically clear the board, he'd get a turn of a fairly big Shadow through, but it's not going to be enough.
It's still only 9, and Teamer Battle Rage could win him the game here if Erik blocked wrong, but Erik's at 20.
Yeah.
Even if he blocks with just like a 3, even if he would just block with a Militia Bugler and take 15, he'd be at 5. Yeah, John would have to be at like 1 to have a 12-12, and then Erik could just double block.
Got another guy. Is that good?
Oh man.
Let's see if Erik remembers his Champion of the Parish trigger, because if he does, I think he can win next turn. Okay, he remembered it. So Erik is going to swing with 5 creatures with 2 power. John gets to block 2 and kill 1 and then still take 4. So as long as Erik swings with everything, he has the game here. Okay, well, there's just a Mantis Rider on the top for good measure. Erik still needs to swing with more creatures than that. This isn't just game. If Erik only attacks with the Mantis Rider, John would have to kill the... There we go. Swing with everything. So if John let Erik move to combat, he couldn't kill the Mantis Rider because of the Exalted trigger. He could Lightning Bolt the Mantis Rider before combat, and then Erik would know to swing with everything. But Erik's swinging with everything anyway. It's pretty clear attack. Yeah. He didn't need the Mantis Rider, but he had no way of knowing that. So we see humans take that one down.
I am excited to see post board though.
See
what happens.
John gets to bring in a lot more removal, but Erik gets to bring in Auroch Champion if he's playing that. I don't know that he is. Doesn't
on the human side.
No, he doesn't look like he is. So he's bringing in some Selfless Spirits, and we'll kind of go from there. John, on the other hand, gets to bring in a lot more. He gets to bring in more removal, more copies of Engineered Explosives. That was an interesting. Actually, John had an Engineered Explosives main deck, which was kind of cool. But he'll get to bring in additional copies of Engineered Explosives. I'd really personally like to see an Abrade. I'll talk about Abrade a little bit more here coming up. But right now, I'd like to take this opportunity to remind you, if you want to rewatch this match, or if you missed this, or if you missed this one, or any of the other ones we had going on tonight, don't forget that we archive all of our replays on our YouTube page at youtube.com/TopDeckProductionsStream. If you're itching to follow us elsewhere on social media, give us a like on Facebook at facebook.com/TopDeckProductions. And be sure to check out TopDeckProductions.com for deck lists, players, league standings, and more. Speaking of league, Tuesday night is our Modern League night, where you get to play for cash prizes. Each week we keep track of all the players' wins, and at the end of the month we give away $100 to first, $50 to second, and $25 to third and fourth. So if you live in the Greater Cincinnati area and you're looking to put your money where your mouth is when it comes to playing some Modern Magic, come on down. Participants must be a minimum $5 patron at patreon.com/TopDeckProductions, or you can go to the website, topdeckproductions.com, and sign up there.
So Erik brought in 2 Dismember and 2 Selfless Spirit.
So the Selfless Spirit will protect his creatures from sweepers, and the Dismember get to kill the Gurmag Anglers.
Yes.
Which is cool. I'm not a big fan of the Dismember. Really honestly any non-creature spell in the Humans deck. Now that they have access to Bugler, I think you really want to build your sideboard in a way that takes advantage of the Bugler's effect, because Bugler can really help you find your sideboard cards. I think now more so than ever, you want to be playing all creatures, specifically creatures that have 2 or less power, like Gaddock Teague, or like Sin Collector, Auroch Champion.
But I do understand this member though. Gurmag Angler can be a very big problem.
Yeah, Gurmag Angler's a big boy, and that just kills it outright. That's why Dismember is good.
And then if you're lucky and they go to play, you know, a 5/5 Death Shadow, you can...
Yeah, like Shadow the Turnip, that's a good point. That's a good point. Shadow the Turnip comes down and will be a 3/3, a 4/4, a 5/5. I mean, you have to be at you have to be at like 6 life for you have to be at 7 life for it to be a 6/6.
Yeah. So you could just snipe it right out, and Erik doesn't really have to worry as much about his life total since he will have so many blockers up. Hopefully.
It can potentially kill any creature that John plays, provided that the Death Shadows, provided that Jonathan's at a high enough life total, can actually snipe any of his creatures, and then he's left with no blockers. It fills a similar role as a Reflector Mage at that point.
And Erik does have an a Dismember in hand now.
So we'll get to see how good the Dismember is. I don't blame him for bringing it in. I think if you're going to play it, this is as good of a deck to bring it in against as any. On John's side, I would really like to see a Braid. Can we get a Braid up? A Braid is, as a red player, I like a Braid. I don't get to play it in Burn because it can't do direct damage to a player, but it gets to do the other two things. The other two things Red really likes to do. This is a Braid in all of its glory. A Braid gets to do two things that Red has always done on the same card. It can deal 3 damage to target creature, or it can destroy an artifact. And these are things that Red has done since the beginning of the game, just never on the same card. It took them 25 years to make this card a modular Red card. You never get those. The reason why a Braid is good against humans is because it can kill any of their atrocious creatures or Aether Vial. So if Aether Vial is if Aether Vial is going to win them the game, if you don't want them to get under you with Aether Vial and Sheet on mana, you blow it up.
Oh, he's taking the Dismember.
He's taking the Dismember, so obviously John was worried about the Dismember, so he gets to take it. Yeah, Braid can blow up Aether Vial or kill any of the creatures. So it's a good one, and I've seen Shadowless start to incorporate a Braid into their strategy. Here's a turn 2 Gurmag Angler, ladies and gentlemen.
Oh man, that's beautiful.
Yep, that's exactly what we're trying to do. We're trying to get big threats out as soon as possible and start attacking with them. Because what's Erik going to do? He's going to take 5? Great. Is he going to block? Loses a card. Which makes
taking the Dismember make even more sense, since he wanted to play that turn 2.
Absolutely. You use the discard magic in Shadow to, and I see a Braid in his hand. Yes! All right. So you use the discard magic to take your opponent's removal spell so they don't have an answer for your creatures. And that is one way to protect the queen. Once you have your queen in play, you back it up with Stubborn Denial. Fortunately for Tople, he doesn't really have to worry about spells out of Erik's deck because they don't really play very many. Now, we did see him bring in 2 Dismember, but that's literally 2.
Yeah.
It's literally 2. Not worth leaving in the Stubborn Denials for, but that's what Stubborn Denial does. So on the front end, you use your discard magic to take the spells, and if they draw any after you play your queen, you get to do Stubborn Denial it.
See, as an Eldrazi Tron player, we do run the 2 Dismember, so often they'll take the one, but I'll draw the other and get to kill their Gurmag.
Get to kill their Gurmag anyway,
nice.
But they can Stubborn Denial it.
Yep.
And so once they have a threat in play, it's not difficult for them to protect it. And okay, well, here we go. Erik, now Shadow's firing off on all cylinders. Erik has been stripped down to just a Noble Hierarch and is taking 5 from the Gurmy boy. We saw a Braid take down the Champion of the Parish, which was the only real threat that Erik had left. Erik is reduced to cycling his more or less cycling his Horizon Canopy to try to get back in the game, and he can't cast the
Mantis Rider.
He can't cast the Mantis Rider. I do like this attack though. It puts Tople to 5, and if Tople wants to, if Tople uses his life total as a resource anymore, Erik can steal the game next turn with a Mantis Rider for 4. So I do like this. I do like this play, and Erik's still in this. He's at 15 life. I wouldn't be surprised if the Mantis Rider got him the game. 2 attacks from Mantis Rider and Tople's dead.
Oof.
So here we see an Anger of the Gods just to get rid of the Noble Hierarch, and I like that Erik correctly put the Noble Hierarch into exile. All too often I see players put cards into their graveyard off of exile effects. Anger of the God exiles.
I did not know that Anger of the Gods exiles.
Let's bring up Anger of the Gods. Anger of the Gods, Anger of the Gods exiles at the end of its effect.
Okay.
Yeah. Okay. Attack. Come on, Erik. Attack. Yes. Okay. There's really no reason not to. It has vigilance. If it comes down to it, he can block the Gurmag Angler. So here's Anger of the Gods.
Okay.
Does 3 damage to each creature. If a creature dealt damage this way would die, exile it instead. If it would die this turn. John's just dead here. He doesn't have a removal spell for this Mantis Rider. Erik's going to win this game. Unless he finds a... So John has a couple of hits. I think he should Faithless Looting because he needs to dig deeper. No, yeah. Don't cast the Serum Visions. Put those on the bottom. Okay, he's going to put them on the bottom because neither one of them... Well, let's see. No, he has to put them both on the bottom. See, if he had just Faithless Looting, he could have drawn the Anger of the Gods. Oh, I don't know. He can't cast the Anger of the Gods this turn because he has to cast the Faithless Looting to draw the Anger of the Gods, and then he'll only have 2 mana. Also, he has both of his red sources in play already. So he has to Faithless Looting and hope he hits a Lightning Bolt.
This truly is a Faithless Looting.
Oh, you're just dead?
Rest in peace.
He's just dead. I would have Faithless Looting first, but the fact of the matter is that there was not a removal spell in... There was not a Fatal Push or a Lightning Bolt in the top 4 cards of John's deck, in the top 4 or 5 cards of his deck, and he's just dead. So we get to see Erik take it down here. Erik steals this game on the back of a Mantis Rider. That was an exciting game.
Honestly, in my experience with humans, even if I do clear the board, that's how they do it. The Mantis Rider with the haste and the vigilance and the flying. It's very hard to deal with.
We saw Jonathan whittle Erik down to nothing, but then not have anything for the Mantis Rider, and then that's how it's done. Good job on Erik's part. He gets to move on to 3-0. Let's try and get our backup match, and keep it rolling for you guys. Of course they are. Okay, well, I'm going to go out and see if there's anything that we can get for a backup match, because I'm sick of having you guys wait around for nothing. But if this is it, we'll be back. If this is the end of the round, we'll be back momentarily with some more modern action. Hopefully I can find a backup match.